All right, guys, so this video is going to be a quick one on the steps for multiplying decimals. And you're already going to be good at this because it's the same but different as multiplying whole numbers. And you're so good at multiplying whole numbers. Now, it's the same but different, but really mostly the same. And here are the steps that you need to know to multiply decimals. Step one is to play pretend. Pretend that the decimal points aren't even there and see what problem you end up with. Step two is to solve that problem, just like you would with any regular whole number multiplication problem. And then step three is the one you really have to know. Step three is knowing how to know where to put the decimal point in your answer. And we want to use the rule described below to place the decimal point in. And the rule is pretty simple. You are going to count the number of digits that live in the decimal universe in the factors, the problem that we're multiplying together. And that has to be the same as the number of digits in the answer or the product. Now, this is definitely a place where people make big Bob mistakes. And so, one of the best ways to prevent yourself from making a big Bob mistake is to take a quick trip to the spa and estimate. It doesn't take very long, it's not very hard, but it is super beneficial. So, let's take a look at this problem, for example. Excuse me. If I'm going to start by playing pretend, this problem, if I take away the decimal points, just becomes 69 times 5. And if I go ahead and solve this, this just becomes a simple 2-by-1 multiplication problem. You're more than welcome to use your multiplication chart in your agenda if you need to. 5 times 9 is 45. I'm going to carry the 4 to the tens place here. And 5 times 6 is 30, plus 4 is 34. Now, this is showing the first two steps, but we know that we still have to put the decimal point back into the answer. And to figure out how to do that, I'm going to look at the original problem and I'm going to count how many digits live in the Thuniverse. So it's anything to the right of the decimal point. So the 9 lives in the Thuniverse. The 0 lives in the Thuniverse. Don't forget, a 0 is a digit too. And the 5 lives in the Thuniverse. So that is 3 digits that live in the Thuniverse in the problem. So I'm going to need to look at my answer, and I'm going to need to put the decimal point where there are 3 digits in the Thuniverse. And the only place to do that is right here. I have 3 digits right there in the Thuniverse. And that means my whole number here is 0. So I just want to show you, I can estimate to check really quickly. 6 and 9 tenths is about 7. 0 and 5 hundredths is about 0. So I know that my answer should be about 0. And I can definitely say that my answer, 0 and 345 thousandths, makes perfect sense. So let's take a look at this one. I'm going to play pretend and pull out those decimal points. I have 143 times 9. So this just becomes a simple 3-by-1 multiplication problem. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 4 is 36, plus 2 is 38. And last but not least, 9 times 1 is 9, plus 3 is 12. Now, I know my answer is not going to be 1,287 because I can even estimate to check ahead of time here. I can say, well, this is about 14, and this is just the whole number 9. And I don't know what that is off the top of my head, but 14 times 9, if I carry the 3, is 126. And I can see that 1,287 doesn't make any sense. So when I use the rule to figure out where I'm going to put that decimal point, this is probably the type of problem that people make the most mistakes with. The 3 definitely lives in the Thuniverse. It's in the 10th place. But a lot of people will also circle the 9, and they will say that the 9 also lives in the Thuniverse. But the 9, guys, if you look there, is a whole number. It is not living in the Thuniverse. And so we actually only have 1 digit that lives in the Thuniverse here. Let's say you made that mistake. You thought that the 9 also lived in the Thuniverse, and you put your decimal point here to give 2. Look how helpful estimating is. I would look at this and say, my answer should be somewhere close to 126. That definitely does not make the most sense. It would only make sense for my decimal point to be here, not here, because that is going to get me closest to 126. And that would cause me to go back to my original problem and say, duh, that 9 is definitely not in the Thuniverse. There should only be 1 digit that lives in the Thuniverse in my answer. Some of the problems are going to be tough ones like this. And this one's actually really tough, but really simple at the same time. When I play pretend, I get 34 times 1. Well, 34 times 1, that's a really simple problem to solve. It's 34. So this type of problem is going to be really easy on this play pretend and solve step, but it's this part that's a little bit more complicated. I know that I'm going to count how many digits live in the Thuniverse. Well, the 3 lives in the Thuniverse, the 4 lives in the Thuniverse, and the 1. So I need to have 3 digits in the Thuniverse in my answer, but I only have 2 digits to work with. That's because I need to annex in a 0. But when I annex in a 0, I want to make sure that the number still says 34 because that's how many I'm working with. If I do it this way and annex in a 0 here, that doesn't say 34 anymore. It says 340. So I don't like that. Let me show you what else we could do here. What if I put the 0 on this side and I put the 34 here? That still says 34. That's going to be the way I want to do it. And my whole number would be 0. If I do a quick estimate to check here, this would round to 0, 0 and 1/10 rounds to 0. I know my answer should be about 0, and my answer makes perfect sense. So this is just a quick kind of review of how to multiply decimals. Without a doubt, this is the spot where I see the most Bob mistakes. I do see a lot of Sally mistakes when you're solving, mostly with multiplication facts. There is a really common play pretend mistake. If you have a problem like this, let's just do that. I will sometimes get kids that will play pretend and look at this as 64 times 5, which is definitely not correct. If I just pull the decimal point out of this particular factor here, then that becomes 604, not 64. It becomes 604 times 5. So that's a common mistake I see too. What you're going to do is complete some practice problems, and I think you'll do a great job. This video is always here if you want to take another peek at it.